Hello, welcome to the Load Bearing Beams podcast. Load Bearing Beams, normally a movie podcast, but right now we're talking about Severance, which we call the only good television program. You know, one of those TV programs. You tune the dial and you're like, oh, it's the Severance program. I'll watch this. My name's Matt Stokes. My name's
Lacey Roth, and I wasn't going to do another one of these, but Matt brought me this pineapple.
A contrition pineapple.
I accept your contrition. I find it delicious.
I accept your contrition.
And then Helly says, I'm so glad.
These two performances in this scene are delicious. I want to put a fork in them and go. Britt Lower, well, we'll have a lot of praise, but just love Patricia Arquette. Everything she says. An apology is warranted.
I demand one from the king.
I fucking love the way that Britt Lower, it might be Britt Lower, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Helly, the evil Helly says, I apologize. I'm sorry.
No.
Just has the perfect,
She does it better than that, but yes.
She is a better actor than I am.
It's so restrained. It's just enough. It's the theme of this entire series is just enough, just passable. Nothing more. This
recap podcast includes spoilers. Watch the episode first. The episode we're talking about is season 2, episode 2, Goodbye, Mrs. Selvig. It aired on the TV station yesterday, January 24th, 2025.
Year of our cure.
In his name we walk. And this episode was directed by Sam Donovan and written by Mohamad El Masri. Big picture thoughts, Lacey, just as an episode of television.
Hard to think of this show in a vacuum, but riveting. Fucking loved it.
Yeah.
This episode all by itself did so much world building than maybe the entire first season did. We really got to explore the town in a way that we hadn't seen and not that much of it, but this episode made me realize how little of the surrounding area I understood.
I keep joking that the outside world in this show is also severed, and it still could be, but I really I think I'm honing in on how barren and sparse this town is, and the most basic explanation is it's a company town, and companies, it's like Dracula's castle, basically. It just sucks the blood out of everything in the surrounding areas.
Well, no, yeah. All it's there for is to house the family members and workers of the company. And there's both a lot of people, but not quite enough people for a whole town. So yeah, this just eerie ghost town feeling, you can feel it two ways. It just keeps reminding me of The Sims in a bunch of different ways, and how there's just enough iconography, some much too literal names for things, too much similarity across buildings and people and cars in a way that's hard to put your finger on. But I was going to say it's interesting, until I think maybe this episode, we hadn't seen a smartphone. We'd seen a phone, but not a smartphone, or think. Or at least I can't remember.
It's not that often.
So it really kind of dated where we are. We are current. I didn't have any reason to think we weren't. But then that makes you look at these cars. There's not a car past the 1980s in the entire show. And it's like, are these company cars? Why else the homogeny across all the vehicles? It's so strange. All right, go on with what you were saying there.
The outside world is just as oppressive as the inside world is, just kind of in opposite ways, in equally opposite ways. The interiors of this episode are all black and dark. Kudos to this show, though. Kudos to Sam Donovan, the director, and whoever the cinematographer is. Sorry, I don't have their name. This is the rare show or movie in the digital age that can have interiors that are dark, but you can see them. They're lit properly. Like inside of Mark's house, it's dark and you can tell it's dark, but your screen isn't blurry. And you're not like, wait, I can't fucking see anything.
And you understand it's a mood. It's not a mistake.
Exactly.
And even when they're outside, it's dreary. Either it's, they're in a part of the country where the sky's gray for a large portion of the year due to the weather, but it's either raining or it's wet in some kind of way. And we just learned this week that when it's not just straight up snowing, that snow just makes things wet. So it just might as well be rain, guys.
Yeah, just permanent. You're in a permanent Seattle, but way cold.
More dangerous than rain. Slippery rain is what I like to call it.
And when you go into the office, it's we talked about this on our Patreon episode. Lumen's, headquarters, it's in a building in the middle of nowhere, in a suburb, basically, unlike where your typical office building is, which would be in a skyscraper in a busy downtown. You have the hustle and bustle.
Right. You would hear exterior noises where they're in a place where you hear nothing. And it definitely, when you have the actress asking if Mark could tell what state they were in, that it was the first time it occurred to me that they didn't know. And then that made me start realizing they do a lot to make it to where the innies don't know any exterior details, including holidays. You'll never know it's Christmas or Easter. There's no decorating of any kind. And they won't even know if it's hot or cold outside because they put their jackets up in their lockers and never wear any clothes to let you know what it feels like outside. As the first time I noticed was this episode.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's not like you're going to be like, oh, it must be cold out there. I'm dressed like this today.
Exactly. So I was at Walmart, little boutique, because I'm hell bent on this freaking bit of wearing blue every time I do one of these episodes, and there was not a lot to pick from. But I kept seeing long sleeve stuff or sweaters, and I just instinctively knew. I'm like, no, Helly would not. She wouldn't. She can't come inside in long sleeves or else they'll know.
So Sam Donovan is the director of this episode. His past credits include directing on The Crown, Three Pines, and The Widow. There's a house style to directing Severance, and there's a big distinction in the visual language on the outside versus on the inside. But like I said, they're equally oppressive, but in opposite ways. And I don't literally, if I had to guess, I'd say the outside world is not actually a severed world, but that's always something you have to keep in mind when you're dealing with a story like this.
But it's a beautiful way of I want the pineapple in the shot. It is a beautiful way of, if what they're doing is shining a light on capitalism and the idea of the corporation becoming your everything, your literal mind controller that you've opted in for, and completely in control of your housing and your vehicles and the places you can go to do anything. That is what a company town is, and it feels like, oh, what a perk. And I can see to a certain person, well, this is nice. We don't have to think about where the kids are going to go to school, and I'll have a car, and there's housing. And in a way, it's like we're not competing with each other. Everything looks the same, but it's once you're doing it, it's like wearing a school uniform in every aspect of your life. Your car, your house, the way you're going to go to dinner, probably the way they vacation. It all feels like very much in like the Truman Show. It feels like it's inside of its own realm. And
then all these things are being chosen for you. You have absolutely no control over it. You don't even have to work for the company for your life to be totally dictated by it. And this is how all these company towns operate. They hand over, first they bid for them. Hey, no taxes at all, no regulations. We'll do anything you want. Then they get them. And then again, these people just run the town. And that's basically the world. The world is a company town. The companies are in charge.
And you think about the different places we've been able to see so far, and I mean, Pips keeps coming back, the diner. This episode we saw Great Doors for the first time, and it was interesting to see the hostility that the owner of that place felt. Because think about it, an owner of anything that isn't an extension of the company is a sort of threat to the company, because you're branching out, you're getting wealth under your own steam and from the people you've brought into your company town. So that he's so upset that Lumen makes their doors in-house. Like, this is just a small company, Great Doors, but Lumen will not even contribute to the little bit of this man's money.
Yeah,
who would be his biggest customer.
Exactly, that, which is always like the promise of like, no, the big company's going to come in town, it's going to stimulate the economy. It sucks up everything.
They're mad at him.
That's why I said I just watched Nosferatu, and suddenly I'm looking at the Lumen building like, oh, it's Dracula's castle. It's everything is close to it. All the people around it fear it. They're like, hey, don't say the name. But it's literally just sucking the blood out of everything that surrounds it. Also, turns it this pale color.
And don't siphon any of their revenue, which, like, don't make doors and then sell them to our people. Those are our homes you're putting those doors on. We make Lumen door, so it's like they're mad at the business owner, and the business owner feels that hostility. And maybe that's why his huge reaction to not hiring a severed person, or you get the sense that might just be how a lot of people feel. But that business owner specifically seems to be in direct competition in some kind of way, or at least he's not harmoniously living in this town with this huge corporation.
Yeah, the various attitudes people have about severance for the non-severed is very interesting.
Yeah.
We can talk about it when we talk about that scene.
Let's go for it.
One more note about the direction. The shot compositions are extremely symmetrical, and that's always been the case on the show. Maybe I'm just noticing it more now that I'm paying closer attention, but you always have people having conversations like in a grid with a object separating them. There's a lot of dissolves, and you pointed out this dissolve where there's just a line left on the screen. I think it's the line of an elevator door closing.
No, it's Milchick driving his motorcycle in the night, and he goes straight across the neck of Irv.
Yeah.
He severs Irv in half.
Yeah, so these like bisections are there in the visual imagery all over.
Constant. And all the packaging and anything they give you a full shot of, you can almost guarantee it's split in half.
Yes. The episode's writer, Mohamad El Masri, his past writing credits include episodes of Here and Now, October Faction, and Soulmates. All right, we'll talk about the episode's plot now. Again, spoilers. Here we go. All right, the episode. Well, I mean, I think you called it, Lacey, last week that the following episode, you said just from the title, because the first episode is Hello, Miss Cobel. Second episode, Goodbye, Mrs. Selvig. You're like, the next episode's going to be the time period we just watched, but from the perspective of the outsiders. And that is exactly what it is. We hear the screams of the four main characters from the closing of the last episode, and then suddenly we pop in with Mark at the book reading party from the end of the last season, and his sister's hugging him and says, "Are you okay? What's my name?
Is it you now? Is this you now?" And it's interesting because Mark seems to understand that he just went through something, but he has no reason to know what.
Right.
I think he kind of responds to it pretty well, just waking up with everyone staring at him like that and his sister hugging him. And it's like he instinctively knows what happened, but doesn't. It's weird. And it's amazing that the finale of last season was this powerful 39 minutes where they are the innies are outie, and the things they're saying and able to do they seem so powerful. So like, oh, this is going to change everything. Oh my God, you just shook up the system. Yes, you're doing it. Mark, you're doing it. Helly, you're doing it. And as soon as it opens and I see his face and I see the way people are looking at him as if he's crazy, and his sister, who trusts him with all of her heart, hugs him and is asking him if he's okay. And it's like, oh my God, wow. That wasn't powerful at all. Everybody just wants things to go to the normal place. This guy's saying a bunch of stuff that makes me feel like I need to act on something, do something, change my life over something. And it's like, Mark, are you okay? And even Mark himself is so pushing back against the biggest thing that maybe his wife is still alive. And even someone who's had, especially someone who's had that much grief and time he's put into getting over and adjusting to his new life. Even if the new thing is that your wife isn't dead, you would think that'd be all you ever wanted, but it's like, no.
That's too big.
I've figured out this. I've already done I'm already doing this. Let me keep doing this.
And this isn't even good or necessarily working, but I'm doing it.
Which was my point in last week's episode. That's why it's so hard to change anything. You have to have such a disruption.
And what the finale of the first season suggested is, when any Mark hacks out into the real world, makes contact with his sister, and they're like, let's contact a journalist or something,
right?
Blow the lid off this thing. We said in our Patreon episode, patreon.com/loadbringbeans, that even if they were able to give definitive proof to the outside world how poorly severed workers are treated on the inside, the world would say, damn, that sucks, and move the fuck on.
Because it's all about the money.
Nothing you can do at all. And I point to usual examples of our own world when we hear about horrible things, including the company that makes the show, Apple, the way it treats its factory employees. We're like, damn, that sucks. But again, it's not in America. I mean, maybe it's different if it happens in America, but still, you're like, that's not me though.
Okay, yeah, exactly. But it's like, all these people are in this town. They live here. In one way or another, they are beholden to Lumen. So it's like, okay, you're telling me that Lumen's most profitable product is something we should ask them to not do and ban and to boycott. That you're asking a whole town to give up the thing they know. The devil is so important. Completely uprooting your life is it's just never the thing you want to do, especially when it wasn't something that you were preparing to do on intentionally. It's like, dude, I'm just having a party. I'm trying to have a party. My own newborn baby was already kind of a distraction. And now this, I just love the way Rickon and his friends handle and talk about everything. Don't blame the baby.
I love that so much. So this part, I mean, we get reunite. These guys weren't in the last episode, but Devin, who's played by Jen Tulloch, Rickon, Mark's brother-in-law, is played by Michael Chernus. These two are both delightful.
They're so delightful.
And this show has a lot of fun, poking fun at a certain kind of like liberal yuppie who's like
intellectual.
Yes, and woke and knows the right things to say, but is like totally fine with systems of exploitation. It's just we just have nice ways of talking about it.
Right. He's window dressing, and he's an intellectual in his circle. You know, he's getting away with something with some people, and he loves that about himself.
And he writes this book, this self-help book that is, targeted at people who are like, quote unquote, winning in this economy, but feel bad about it. And he's like, well, here's how to feel good about it. But he's totally like well-meaning and everything.
Well, just the literal devil walks through the door in Milchick, and Devin responds the way someone principled would. If they have these big feelings toward Lumen and these big suspicions, it's uncomfortable to watch the way that she greets Milchick.
Milchick.
I always think I'm saying it wrong. But that's the principled way to do it. And then you've got Rickon, who's like, what a magnificent helmet.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You don't need to compliment him. You just let him into the house at like 1 a.m.
Yeah, your instinct is to immediately defer to power.
Immediately, yes. Or to manners, to this man's probably uncomfortable. Let me make him comfortable without thinking of the overarching picture of what he does for a living and what he's done to your life and your fucking family. All right, I'm going to I never let you get past the first slide until 20 minutes of conversation about the entire fucking show. Sorry.
We both love the banter between Adam Scott and his sister.
Yes.
Feels like a real brother and sister who are mean to each other in a sweet way, but
very caring.
Yes, but do a lot of do like hide. Mark hides his feelings behind sarcasm. She's like, what's my name? And he blank face and he says, Persephone. But then she's like, that's the sarcastic asshole Mark I know and love. He's back. Mark doesn't know why the photograph of his wife is in his hand, but we'll more on that upcoming. We get a new
character on this episode, and we hear his name and I don't remember it, but
Mr. Drummond.
But it's interesting because I wasn't sure until a second watch if his power is above Helly, beside her, or below her. And I'm still not totally sure. He clearly is muscle. He's intel. I don't know if he's a board member. He seems to be, but he seems to be watching what Helly does to make things right, just as much as he's there to help her do what she needs to get done. He seems like he might be the eyes for the dad.
I think that's it. Or, it's this is still like a family held business, and you have like official titles, but actually it's just the family, and they have like trusted advisors like this guy. Yeah. He might have a title, but his actual title is be the heavy, look out for my daughter.
It felt more like make sure she doesn't fuck up again, not look out for my daughter. Her dad is so... This anger that he looks at her with such disgust, as if he doesn't even understand his own product that he made. How he could at all be upset with her for experiencing a procedure that was put in place by his company to a product that he developed so that it could function this way. For him to be mad at her, it's like taking.
So what happens though is. This is the first time we've seen Audi Helly in the show and got to spend time with her actual in control as the outside Helly. And this is right after she'd made the big speech at the gala. We're slaves in there. They're torturing us. And then the Audi took back control. So now her dad, James Egan, played by Michael Siberi. I don't know this actor, but his face is quite intimidating. And he just looks at her and he says, "Fetid Moppet."
Which is just so mean and confusing.
And then she responds with "Father," and then he gets really bug-eyed and then walks away. So I don't actually know how to read this. Like, what is literally happening right here? Did he go in thinking you are still the innie and I'm going to yell at you? Oh no, you're the outie. Do you think my daughter is a weakling? Like,
yes, that's how yes. And she's in the women's room. Like, she's vulnerable, dude. And she's feeling her neck. like, she's remembering that my Annie tried to kill herself. That's how bad it is in there. And I didn't take care of that then, and now this has happened. It's like you can't ever be sure it's not going to happen again. Like what are you, while you're driving, kill the both of you? But it's just the pure cruelty. That's all I read from the dad. Is he is a unloving monster. That's all I see. And then from now on, she's shadowed, at least for these couple of days, by who I call Frolic, because that's his tattoo.
Yes, this is Mr. Drummond, played by an actor named Olafur Dari Olafsson, an Icelandic actor.
Oh, Olafur Olafsson?
Yes.
Can we call him Ollie?
We can call him Ollie. So I mean, this guy is more on the presence of fat people in this show. There are a lot of fat men, at least. Mm-hmm. This guy is big and tall, and is a bowling ball. He'll fucking
Wait, is he the bowling ball, or is he the?
He's a bull in a bowling ball and a.
All right. He works at a bowling area.
He's big. He's big. That's what I'm saying.
He's imposing.
Yes, but this is our first indication that Helly does have like authority in the company. She's running things, whereas we could have said from the last season, like she's part of the family. She's being used for PR purposes, but it's unclear. Does she have a position in the company? Is she?
Well, the way that Milchick treated her, in the first season, and the way that the two women speak to her in the bathroom when she first becomes outwardly her Annie, or you know what I mean, the last episode, I could tell that it's not anyway. There seemed to be like she's in a position of power. She's respected, not just like look at you doing. Yeah, you're just
your family owns the company,
right? You're really doing good by your dad. There was no patronizing anything. It was just people talking to her like she's a person. So that made me think, okay, peer. And I mean, she's being trusted to handle the situation. Her dad didn't stop in. She's his right hand, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, she seems to be running Severance, is doing the hands-on running of the Severance at the executive level.
He doesn't take over even in probably the worst thing that's ever happened to this product and company in the very in the vast few. I don't know. It seems bad. So he leaves it in her hands. He's just pissy with her, but he does leave behind Ollie. So I don't know. He's trusting her and fucking hates her.
Mm-hmm. Audi, we see Dylan, the Audi Dylan, now leaving the office, shaken up, confused.
A thing on his head because he's injured. He's been given an ice pack.
And we see Mr. Milchick observing him from several floors up ominously. And then Helly goes to talk to Milchick and says, go find the Audis. And he says, shall I fire them? And she says, let Kier guide your hand.
Right.
Kier is her grandfather. The town is named Kier. This whole company is a cult of personality to Kier. But as we said in our Patreon episode, patreon.com/LoadBrainBeams, that I think that a thing that this show kind of gets at is the true believers. You'll find this in religions and governments and companies. The true believers are the middle managers.
The enforcers. Right.
The people at the top, the actual power is but we know that's bullshit. Like, Kier, come on. We'll tell this to the other people beneath us because they'll believe it. Although we can see when somebody like Patricia Arquette truly believes it, how far she can take it. But still, it's also a way to totally get rid of responsibility.
Exactly. Let Kier guide your hand. And if he makes the wrong decision, then he just didn't have the spirit of Kier the way he had claimed. And she was just being a total what the fuck leader. She's leading with the word. And it's such garbage, throwaway, meaningless things to say to people. Or to put all the responsibility on them.
Let's say somehow 3 years from now you're in a deposition. And yes, did Miss Helena Egan then say to you to fire the employees? She said, let Kier guide your hand.
Right.
What does that mean? I don't know.
It's just like every religion, every self-help book or anything like that, every diet, the entire point is to make it complicated and confusing, and so that when it fails, and it will, you didn't do it enough. You didn't believe enough. Prosperity gospel. Mm-hmm. Keto.
You can only fail yourself. You can't be failed. The system can't fail you.
Right.
We get this cool tracking shot of Helly going through the building. Appreciate the show doing the just filming on a practical set, presumably getting a drone and tracking her through the building.
Isn't it interesting how from the side the boardroom looks like it's full of treadmills, which is a great symbolism for what it's like to be an innie.
And we keep saying it, the people like Miss Cobel and like Milchick, they're basically innies themselves. They have to devote their whole lives to this company. They can't actually leave at the end of the day. This is the first time we've seen Patricia Arquette this season. She is waiting in this big conference room. Helly goes in to sit next to her at the head of this giant conference table next to Cobel, and then the heavy Mr. Drummond sits on the very, very far end. And she says, "We've commandeered the footage taken by the guests from the big gala thing earlier this evening. We're doing media outreach, and the severed employees are being dealt with." And she thanks Miss Cobel for acting decisively.
Okay, but it's also something seems of note is that Miss Cobel immediately says, "Will your father be joining us?" And because she's just been trying to claw her way to some respect, to past the middle, like, okay, this is a big fucking deal. I just saved your ass. If I'm ever going to meet your dad, it'll be right now. And Helly's just like, he's not coming. He's sorry too. And it's just like, she can't even get voices from the board at her last position. And now she's maybe saved the company and in a way, and can't even get a minute with the with the man.
Yeah, my father won't be joining us. The board won't be joining us, probably because the board doesn't exist. I mean, this company has a board of directors, but this mystical board they keep talking about is just her. It's just her and this guy. There's no like panel that's listening and thinking very thoughtfully.
I don't know that I agree with that, but
that's just my little theory.
Oh, fun.
Lacey said this beautifully on the last episode that a lot of people love this show because of the mysteries. And this episode at the end teases the big season-long mystery. But I love the way that Lacey said, forget exactly what you said. I don't treat it as a puzzle to solve. And I think that's just one of the least fun ways to engage with art.
Right. Then I'm distracted watching it. I'm already a pattern seeking person. Having dyslexia makes me constantly try to fill in what my brain assumes I'm missing something. So I'm constantly trying to connect everything. And it is very distracting. It helps me find details. But if I think that that's what the show wants me to do, I won't hear a goddamn thing anyone says.
Yeah.
Everything will just be a Where's Waldo?
I mean, like something like the mystery of what is Cold Harbor? Like, yeah, that's an engine that can keep your season going. Twin Peaks with Who Killed Laura Palmer, Lost, what are the numbers? But you don't want it to overwhelm just the fact that we're telling a story about people.
Right.
And that we're dealing with all these big ideas and big questions.
Because I guarantee you Cold Harbor will be a complete letdown. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing that could be that mind-blowing. That's why famously big, huge TV series, their last episode, it hardly ever pleases even half of the people watching it because it's not what you think. The ride is the point.
Yeah, I'll spoil it for everybody. What is Cold Harbor is something fucked up.
Gives a shit.
There you go. It's, oh my God.
And it apparently only takes Mark to do it, which is exactly why I think it has something to do with Gemma, but whatever.
Yeah, so they're doing something fucked up to his wife. Why? Who cares?
Or doing something fucked up to like big mistakes. Is this like some kind of like Prince, whatever, other rich people who accidentally kill people with their cars? It's like, can we kind of bring people back? Can we sort of,
that would be good.
Can we get Gemma alive long enough to like pull out her essence and then maybe rebuild her? Or like, I don't. And is this their child? Okay, I need to stop.
That would be good, but that's bringing in something I love in fiction is fixers. I love a fixer.
I love a fixer.
Miss Cobel says, it cost me dearly.
Dearly. My apartment was divine.
And still you proved your loyalty tonight, which is why we'd like to ask you back. Because remember, she had been fired. And then she's so devoted to the company, she's like, I'm not fired. I'm still doing the work. I'm going to fucking out Mark S and whatever. And she's like, so we'd like to welcome you back. An apology is warranted.
Okay. The apology happens. Mm-hmm. Your contrition makes my nipples hard happens. And then the beautifully well-observed thing of them offering her a bullshit position, not giving her any kind of seniority or access or even giving her back what she lost, just simply putting her in the ether and they can make it anything they want because she's the pioneer. She's the spearhead. Know who else is in the front line? The people who die.
We'd like to let you head up the Severance Advisory Council. It's
I've never heard of
totally real new thing that, well,
Totally
again,
real.
you get to be on the ground floor. You get to build it yourself. Wow. And this is just, hey, we're just going to put you somewhere and you keep your mouth shut and we'll pay you.
Exactly. But I mean, she smells that out right away. She does not commit to it. She's like, I'll put some thought to that.
Yeah, because she wants to run the severed floor, but Mr. Milchick's already been taking that position. She says, you don't value me, you fear me. And Helly's like,
We fear no one.
We fear no one. So then Helly now goes into the little video recording room where she records her PR video. And what she says is she made the foolish decision to consume alcohol and while on a non-lumen
medication for an arm rash.
An arm rash that exacerbated, and she said some silly things.
That had an inebriating effect. So does alcohol. I mean, you need a little. At the time, I thought it was funny. How do you know you thought it was funny? You were so inebriated that you said things. How is this Helly right now, one that's only an hour or two away from that inebriation? How are you so clear-minded right now? It's such a bullshit thing, but that's all you need. You just need a little spin, a little twist.
You have to check the box, and she's good at checking the box. She says the right things. Like, I realize my words have consequences. The workers who beat so much to us, them and their families, they depend on this company and the way it's perceived. And you know, whenever she says the important part, her voice quivers. This was, I said severance is bad. This was a joke and a lie.
Well, and the beautiful last thing she says, which is just like, yep, you're a piece of shit. I mean, we already knew, but just like, I am committed to this company with my whole being, but I am also human, as are you. Like, bitch, this ain't about me. You got to keep my me out of your mouth, ma'am.
So at this point, Lacey, are you thinking... so I mean, last week,
I'm seeing the name of this slide. This is such a stupid thing to say.
Last week we learned that to the innies, at least, they're being told that Lumen has reformed. It's been an eventful 5 months. We had a parade, big investigations and everything.
Matt totally called it that was a Photoshop situation. We knew that it probably was, but not totally why, and that it looked so piss poor. Also, we didn't know why, but you called it, and now we understand because it was so rushed.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like this isn't where we totally get confirmation that was all bullshit. Right. But you start to like, wait a minute, okay,
things are happening pretty fast.
When are they going to do the big parade and investigation?
Okay, but you can tell they're doing all this in real time, right? I'm like, okay, let's give it some time. This is the first couple of days after. Those would be the most, eventful. But you just get the sense for how low the numbers are at these places. It's still just Milchick doing everything. And it all through the episode, you Mark S on the outside, the Audi, he's not doing a lot of talking, which he's not the most talkative person, but he's doing a lot of calculating, and he's just adding up these things about Lumen as a company more than in a way that I didn't see him doing before. Like, I don't know, like he's almost clocking that Milchick is working really long hours, and he's doing that 2 days in a row, and this is a weekend. Why are they doing this to him? And that Mrs. Selvig lived in this house today. Even I drove to this party with her, and now I'm coming back from this party at night, and she's gone. What did Lumen, the company, do to an entire person? And why is her car here? But she's not like that. He's just like, this is beyond like discipline. A normal company needs some time to enact the discipline, even if it is your neighbor. Mark also gets cut off by his sister once or twice when Milchick says something very like kind of hateful about his innie. Like Milchick is assuming that Mark S is mad at his innie. Like that this was unsupervised or whatever, like unauthorized. You must feel really violated. And it's like, how can he not understand that that's part of me? And I'm probably just worried about my innie. I'm not thinking my innie's an asshole.
Milchick's whole thing is like, he will try whatever. He has all the tricks. He has all the different tones and approaches to people.
He says the wrong shit. Like,
and he will say the wrong thing and then switch.
Yes, fine. But I'm telling you that in this episode, Mark did a lot of noticing that he had not done in a long time, because he's not really with his work people outside of work. And I think it's all adding up to this company does too much. It's doing too much. I know he ultimately still goes back to work, but I don't know. Something has definitely clicked for him, even without the wife stuff.
Milchick's like, so well, I'll see you Monday, right? And Adam Scott's just like,
I don't know, man.
I don't know, man. That's his attitude. Like, there's a lot going on. I don't fucking, seem pretty fucked up. I don't know.
Right.
But Mr. Milchick gets sent on his mission to go fix things. So he gets on a badass leather jacket and a motorcycle helmet.
The magnificent helmet.
Gets on a motorcycle and goes out into the night. First, he goes to Irv's house, John Turturro, and
who's being a delight.
Yes, who says, "Fuck, I forgot to look up the thing he's watching on TV. I'm sure it means something."
Barbara and the Barbara DeVille. Is that it?
Sorry, I don't.
The Farmer in the Dell.
It's the Farmer and
I think
the Farmer in the Dell is
the
on
Barber of DeVille. Seville, right? Like, and that's the murderer of the town or something.
The Barber of Seville is an opera considered to be the greatest masterpiece of comedy within music. What is the story of the Barber of Seville? Well, it's just some highbrow shit. Okay,
fine. It's the murder of a town.
So they're cutting between him visiting Irv and him visiting Dylan at their houses late at night. Their Audis. Irv immediately lies. Have you seen anything odd been going on this evening?
Right.
No, totally.
I woke up at a man's house. Right.
Just watching TV. What?
Why don't you just tell me?
So sorry, but
you're right. That's what I was like. Well, why did Keir guide your hand to firing both of them? But you're so right. They just didn't pass the sniff test. He lied. He needed to say that something had happened, and then maybe he would have been allowed back. But he's not being a company man.
He says, Milchick says to him, your innie is a good friend of mine. He's a man of principle, which is rare. When he says this, Irv smiles. Now, this is the inverse of the scene in the first season where Irv, on the inside, is told about his Audi.
Yes.
Just with this base bullshit like, your Audi is admired in the community. Your Audi is kind. And he's just like, oh. And this whole show.
I know, but it's such a backhanded thing. He's a man of principle. And I didn't realize it until just now. He's like, he wouldn't lie to me. You fucking liar. All right, peace. You're fired, Audi. Audi 5000 or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry to cut you off, Orders.
Why should I fucking care about my Audi or my innie? We're different people. I think this episode, especially with Helly later, is doing a lot to show why you would care. It is like it's a me.
It's like a child of you, or
it's
something.
A reset me. It's like I love to. If I got a second chance to be somebody totally different, like how would things work out for me? That's interesting to me. I feel connected to that.
Is it that I have a large ego, or just a good sense of myself that I've always just hoped to be exactly like I already am? Like I find myself to be interesting. So whenever I think of that, I go, oh, I love that. Without any of my memories, I'd still be funny. If someone told me I was funny, whenever he tells Mark S that he's funny, he gives him that smirk, and it's like, fuck yeah, Lisa.
Yeah, because it's like, boy, it's just something so inherent in my bones.
It's just
I'm that fucking funny.
Nature. I can't even fucking help. Yep.
So Irv is fired, then Dylan is fired because your innie was involved in a physical altercation, and Zach Cherry as Dylan is really, really upset. What am I supposed to tell my wife?
Yeah, it's
an interesting spin on the idea of your Audis can now suffer the consequences done by their innies.
Right. Well, and
in our world, you get fired for totally bullshit reasons, totally beyond your control. So.
Often things you can't prove, and it's just how much power you're giving over to a company if they just simply need to downsize. You don't know how many people are on the severed floor. There could be thousands, and they could simply just be in over their heads and need to downsize, and they could just tell you that you started an altercation, bop you on the head, give you an ice bag, and be like, see, are you hurt? That's because you got in a fight. It's just, there's no way to know.
There's no end to the amount of exploitation you can do of your workers in this situation because nobody can know anything. Information cannot pass back and forth. There's no ability to leverage your skills or your experience. I was even thinking, what if there's a Me Too? Is this show going to have a Me Too situation on the inside? How would that be dealt with?
Right.
You can't deal with it because nobody on the outside can ever know. There's no accountability at all.
Right.
Then a new opening credits title sequence. I love this title sequence. I love title sequences.
Well,
in
you
general,
didn't allow me or the kid to watch it, so I wouldn't know. I watched it twice. You skipped over it both times.
We were so in a hurry to watch the episode. I'm sorry.
We both said we wanted to watch it.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Oh, yeah.
Too ready to get to the. Oliver Lara is a German animator who does the title sequence, and the music on the show, which rules, is by Theodore Shapiro. This very minimalist piano theme that recurs, and then the piano score generally rules. So just wanted to credit those people.
All right. Look, they all match, Matt. They're all around the dinner table talking to Milchick, and they're all wearing blue up to their freaking chins.
Yeah, I mean, blue.
Interesting.
Yeah, you called it like blue. Blue is one is.
It just seems to be the only thing sold.
This is the blue and white show. Blue, white, and black. Blue is the color of the team on the inside, but it's blue all throughout the world on the outside. I'm noticing the Lumen logo so much more this season, and maybe it was there last season too, but the cul-de-sacs go around a Lumen drop, and Milchick is always wearing his pin with the Lumen drop, and it's on every single one of their lockers has the symbol of the drop, and all. It's like, why is blood a Lumen symbol? I guess it could mean water, but they haven't said anything about water yet. So what are they doing with blood? But especially the Kier head.
Sure.
That looks just like the linen hat. I mean, not just.
But when you say that, that's the architectural style is brutalism.
But this office isn't brutalist.
I guess there's too many windows, but it feels impressive like that.
Yeah. Like
a cement brick.
So I don't know if this is deliberate, if I'm just seeing things, but it would just be funny if the most capitalist system in the world, this Severance system, is utilizing the codes and symbols of communism. So we're back at Devin and Rickon's house, dealing with the aftermath of the party, and
there's some tension.
They're trying to figure out what Mark meant by "she's alive," and Rickon's like, "Well, it's the baby," because the baby went missing in the season 1 finale. But
I think Rickon is the one that's the most wanting things to just go back to nicey. He just wants things to everybody get along. I can tell that Mark doesn't want to think about his dead wife being alive. So it's definitely the baby. So I'm not buying anyone's bullshit on this. They all think the wife is alive. They just don't want to deal with it in their own different ways.
Yes. And Adam Scott, that's how he's playing it. Like, guys, I think I was talking about the baby. He's trying to convince himself. I'm not talking about my wife.
Can you imagine grieving over your dead wife for 2 years? And he had a very severe grief and great relationship with her. And it seems to have completely tortured him to the idea of having to do it again. Because go ahead and get your hope up. Because that's what it would take. It would take getting some hope up to even perceive this as being possible. And just like processing what the fuck that means about the company. It's too complicated. Mm-hmm. You give someone this much of a thing to think about, and it would take a very strong person to even consider looking into it. Devin is strong.
I want to say something about Jen Tulloch and Michael Chernus, these actors. There's no other way to say it. They look kind of weird.
Who?
These actors.
Okay.
Or no, sorry. It's not that they look weird. They look like real people.
Yeah.
Rickon is kind of fat. Devin is very attractive.
With this?
Devin is attractive, but like looks like a normal person. Adam Scott looks like a movie star.
No, he fucking
okay. He's a beautiful person.
He's a melted movie star.
Okay, I've seen him in stuff for 30 years, so maybe I can't. But like these people look like real people interacting with.
I think Devin's super pretty, but I think she's got a believable body type. It's nice. But she also, there's no mom and dad in this story, and we don't know why yet. And so she signals paternal sister, or maternal sister, which I can very much relate to. And there's like an asexuality about a sister like that. Like you're not the hot sister that the brother has to take care of and look out for. You're the person being taken care of by the sister. So she's got to also read mom.
Yeah, he's never like, oh, dude, Devin left her bra in the bathroom.
Or it's like, are you going to wear that? Jeez, it's never like that. It's just, she's just practical, good looking, good head on her shoulders, but nothing flashy.
A ring at the doorbell. Mr. Milchick arrives and Rickon's like, oh, right this way, Mr. Satan, please.
Not like that, but okay.
They invite him in. Devin is being steely, staring at him, daggers.
Devin, you must be Devin. She snarls. Love it.
So Milchick explains the overtime contingency, which is how they all got out.
Very quickly, he's like, no, you read it in your start paperwork.
You never told me about this.
Okay.
But like, no. It's in your employment agreement, which, yeah, I'm sure.
Sure.
But this is, I mean, even the overtime contingency, like this is fucked up. Like I could be driving or whatever and you could suddenly take over my body.
Right. Who are you? Or I could be having sex with my wife, someone that I don't want another person to see. And then what? What are you now you're going to call me on the phone? What's the rest of this policy?
By its very nature, I can get no heads up. I can't prepare for this happening. So it's like, I always have to worry. Is my life going to get taken over at any moment? Like how your company can email you in the off hours and they don't have to pay you for it, but they expect you to read your emails and respond and do work unpaid because that's what a good employee would do. I had a boss. I worked for a lawyer as a marketing guy in my early 20s, right out of college. And this boss, he's having me run all his social media and shit. And he's like, here's what I want to do, Matt. I want to buy you an iPad. I'm like, gee whiz, an iPad.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. And he's like, yeah, an iPad. It's going to be great. And listen, if it's the weekend, if it's a holiday and I call you and I'm like, hey, I need you to like do some shit for me from the iPad. I just bring the iPad with you wherever you go, just in case.
He said that?
Yeah. And he would do that to me. I'd be out in the world and he'd be like,
I bet you're enjoying that iPad, Matt.
yes. And
you know how much work you can't do from a fucking iPad?
that's not the point. The point is,
I know.
Yes, I've accepted this gift and signed over my soul because I'm an idiot who's like, an iPad. I could never in a billion years afford an iPad.
What a perk.
Any Mark was in this house, Mr. Milchick says. Adam Scott, Mark does not respond. He's like calculating, like, how do I play this? But Devin does it for him. I know. I talked to him. Okay.
What do you say?
What do you say? And she says, well, if I tell you, are you going to punish him?
Right.
He says, we have no punishments at Lumen. We're more concerned about how you're doing, Mr. Scout. How are you?
Another thing to clock. You need to be concerned about that. He's not reading the room. He needs to care about the innie. Milchick needs to seem like he cares about these fucking innies. If their whole goal was to get out there and say, they're torturing us, we're not happy. You come in here and be like, you must feel so what a thing he did. It's like, whoa. You're not proving that you care about these fucking people. You're not thinking of them. You think of them as children.
The HR language, I'm beating a dead horse. It's all bullshit. It's bogus. He's a computer algorithm.
He's not even good at it, though. He's doing it wrong.
But to be good at it just means I can convince you of something that I'm lying about, that I care about you. I don't care about you. Your company doesn't care about you. They can find the language to make you think they care about you. Okay, so Devin says, like, how often is it that you... like managers will commit lactation fraud.
Most time.
Yeah, because Patricia Arquette was posing as her lactation consultant. There's no links you won't go to.
Living as his neighbor, just completely just being someone who knows him on the inside and not admitting to that on the outside. It's fucking weird. And he's probably calculating and realized all the time she inserted herself into his life, constant almost, with the fucking cookies and the garbage bins that were purposely put in the wrong spot. And it's like, there's a whole subdivision here for you guys to live in. You're the only two. Why are you right next door?
Plus, wait, is his house supplied by Lumen? Is it company housing?
Yeah, I mean, the cul-de-sac is a Lumen symbol. Yes, these are all of them live in company housing. Because I was trying to think of, like, I know it's devastating to get fired, but like, they seem so devastated. And I guess it's just really shocking because you think you're being a great employee. You have no way to know that you're not. And then you're just told and you just have to take it. And I'm like, they must have good benefits or something. But then I'm like, no, duh. I mean, Devin, you clearly, help me, Dylan, you clearly live in their house. You probably think you now need to move with all your kids. That's not easy.
Okay, but even if you don't,
you probably live there.
Losing a job, like they say, it's comparable to losing a loved one. It is so that devastating.
I guess Dylan just seems like a strong person, someone that's like so like defiant and kind of damn the man on the end. That's the way his innie is. So it feels a little odd that his outie would be so affected. But it's like, duh, you're married with children. Like, you need to make money. You need consistency. You like the life that you have because you know it. The devil, you know.
You and I have been freelancers for 10 years. If a client, decides not to use us anymore, we're like, well, okay, there's more clients out there. To be at the whim of an employer, and I've been fired before, and it was like the worst thing that ever happened to me at the time.
It was the worst thing that ever happened to our marriage.
Hey, It is like a death. And it's something, you realize how little control you have over your life. And it's like with one conversation, hey, come in, close the door. Okay, your life is now over, basically. Right. It's all gone. It's all shitty now.
But if you don't see it, don't agree with it, didn't see it coming, there's something about not seeing it coming. And what more of a not see it coming can you be than a severed person? Mm-hmm. This must be so jarring. And to get a door knock at they do a good job of telling you that these are winter hours. So it always seems like a lot is happening after dark in this place, but it's probably a situation where it gets dark at 5 o'clock. You know, as I'm always saying, I'm like, God, how late is it? And I know it's a late night this particular night, but if you will notice that hardly anything happens in the daylight on the show across the entire show. Devin's entire maternity scene, all at night, cabin in the woods. Everything that you see him and his sister go do, almost entirely at night. Anytime he gets home from work, it's at night. Like the only stuff he did during the day in season 1 was stuff he wasn't supposed to do.
And this is filmed in upstate New York, which has the sort of permanent dreary and isolated,
very effective
aesthetic. So Milchick's like, listen, this is all because of Patricia Arquette. She's unwell. She'll never bother you in there or out here again. So I'll see you on Monday. She'll never bedevil you again, nor bother you here. You've nothing to worry about. He talks like a novel.
Yes, talk right. A thesaurus for no reason. Just use the regular words, sir.
And yeah, so Mark's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm coming back on Monday. So Milchick, who's, running now through the algorithm in his head, like, searching.
We'll circle back.
He says, like, your innie, he did a really bad thing. He broke lots of rules, but it was also very brave.
Well, you wouldn't want to kill him now, would we?
I'd hate to reward him with non-existence.
Damn, manipulative ass statement.
We get a quick look at Irv back at his house, and he pulls the map out of his pocket that he was doing with.
What a brilliant way to get free labor forever, way past retirement age, way past until they don't want you anymore, is to give you the constant guilt trip. If you would ever want to stop working for Lumen, you'd have to make a decision to kill a person.
Yeah.
It didn't click before, but it's like, no, you can quit at any time, murderer.
Yeah.
It's fucked.
Yeah, no, they won't say murder. Let's just say, hate to non-existence. Hate for him not to exist.
They're such a hard worker. And they finally found love, murderer.
There's all kinds of ways people get tied to their jobs that go beyond, I'm going to murder a person. It's for so many people, their job is their social life. So it's be like, I hate my work. I'm not paid well, but like, where else am I going to meet friends? I love the people I work with, or I have this health insurance plan, where I'm never going to find it somewhere else. So I'll just keep working my shitty job forever. We get a look at Irv at his house. He pulls a map out of his pocket with Bert's address written on it, because that's the quest he was on when he was temporarily freed.
Okay, so Helly apparently does not have an office in this massive office complex. She's only been in this giant boardroom the entire time, which is why I think she's not at home here. She's not here often. She's being supervised in a kind of way. She just seems like a kid at her parents' place fucking around. Or being neglected in some kind of way. And I love this. They're incredibly old, weird, knobby, rounded edges, fucking equipment. This monitor appears and it looks like something from fucking Star Trek. Mm-hmm. Like it's a console TV I don't think it existed except for in sci-fi. And she's just now got to sit there and watch hours of the day where the thing happened to see if she can, I don't know, figure out what they might have been trying to achieve or where they might go or who they might talk to, what they might be saying. And all we really see her watch is the kiss that happens between her and Mark. And she seems pleased.
So the footage she's watching is any Mark and any Helly, and they're being like cute and awkward with each other. Like, maybe on the outside we're married. Mm-hmm. Maybe we have arguments about wrong. Car wash coupons. She says that, and then Audi Helly laughs at her own
joke
comment. Yes. And then they kiss, and she's fascinated. She watches it several times. And I liken this to if you have a romantic or sexy dream about somebody and then wake up having a crush on them. She's like,
that's how I got a crush on you.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. It was just like this. David Lynch just died, our greatest dream filmmaker.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're going to say you had a sexy dream about him. It's too late, Mark.
Every night. Our greatest dream filmmaker, and like his movies, especially Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive, like are dealing with doppelgangers and dealing with sort of logic about dreams and things happening sort of outside your control, but kind of in your control, and it changing the course of how you feel about your life. I was just thinking of how much this is like her having this dream of this alternate path she could be on. And where I think this is going, and I think this is so interesting, in the last episode, the innie Helly decides I'm staying to work at Lumen because I know that my outside life, I hate her.
Yeah.
She's a bad person. I don't want to be here. And I feel like the outie Helly is going to have a similar thing of, I think I like her on the inside more.
Yeah.
She seems, look
free.
at that. She's free. She's happy. She's found love.
She gets to break rules. And it makes her a badass. I break rules that I didn't even mean to break, and I'm a fucking intrepid Muppet, whatever the fuck.
A fetid Muppet.
Fetid Muppet.
No, I have everything I could ever want.
Right.
I'm one of the most powerful people in the world, most wealthy people in the world.
But isolated. Look how isolated. Look how that's the beauty of her being in this huge room. Look how far away she is from the screen. It's just like she's so alone.
Yes, in this giant conference room filled with nothing.
In her ball gown, with her jewels. I love that the distinction between her innie and her outie is that her outie wears her hair up.
Yeah.
Like, put your hair down.
Everyone I interact with works for me in some capacity.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm
something. Looking at a multiverse version of me who has just kind of a pure human connection with somebody. And that is what life is about, is just making those connections with people we love. And so I think that's kind of the seed of this planted right here is, it's not like she's going to burn the company down or anything, but like, if given the choice, I think I would rather be my innie.
Mm-hmm. I can watch some more footage. It's like her own little soap opera she could watch every day if she wanted.
Yeah.
Here's Mirror World at Great Doors.
Yeah, Great Doors. This town does seem like a simulation though, like where the details just aren't totally filled in. So the door factory is called Great Doors.
And the two things they mention in this interview are that there's a benefit of having a coffee maker, which you can see in the middle of the shot.
Yes.
And that they make doors that are just sliding by like fucking Monsters Inc. on a rail the entire time. All different kinds of doors. And it's like, that's not how doors would be produced. It'd be one kind of door going over and over and over, and then another kind of door over and over. You're not just mixing doors. It's like, what does ChatGPT think a door is? It's all these different things. It's fucking great. And these mirror versions of the same person.
Yeah, because Zach Cherry's going in for Dylan is going in for this job interview at the door factory. And the guy they take a second to reveal who he's talking to, but then the camera pops out. You see a wide shot of both of them in this symmetrical grid on opposite sides. They're basically in identical postures, leaning opposite away from each other with the table.
Similar hair, glasses.
Yes.
Similar facial hair.
And the guy literally says, "You remind me of me." And it's going great. And Dylan's like making him laugh. And he's like, "I'm going to get the job. Yes, I'm going to get the job." But then he looks at his resume and he says, "So what'd you do at Lumen?" He's like, "Well, I have to say it. I'm a severed employee."
But why does he have to? It's a medical procedure. It's a HIPAA thing. Like I feel like it's a little bit of self-sabotage. It was going great. He could just assume you work at Lumen. Leave it alone, man.
Yeah. Bad lie. Just lie at your job interview.
But he does seem very taken aback and surprised at the big reaction. And that's why I think that this very specific kind of town employee, someone that's had the balls and the nerve to come out from underneath the wing of Lumen to make their own product and to sell it to the Lumen community. And the pissiness goes both ways. Fuck Lumen for not asking us to make their doors, and fuck these door people for making doors for other people.
But he says you want to circumcise your brain, that's your business. But I think it's abhorrent. So there are people who think this is ghoulish, just like to do to yourself physically.
But that's also someone less beholden to Lumen, right? The more you can separate yourself financially from the evildoer, the more you can clearly see that they are evil. So it's probably less about the procedure and more about who did it and why. Mm-hmm. So like, yes, he thinks Lumen is despicable. He already has an axe to grind there. And the fact that this person would give up their brain control over to that evil company is like the most sad, pitiful kind of person that just can't stand on their own 2 feet. And in fact, could be some kind of a fucking Cylon or Manchurian candidate or something. Like, what if Lumen could just activate this person anytime they wanted and get our door secrets?
You're right. Yeah, it could. But even if it didn't have that, it's like all the experience and skills you gain working as a severed employee, they're not going to translate over here. That happened to a different person.
He doesn't even know what he did there.
Yeah. So it doesn't help you at all.
Correction, Scion. Not Cylon.
No, a Cylon, yeah.
Oh, fuck. One's a car, one's a thing.
You and I have been freelancers for 10 years. If we suddenly had to go get a job, a full-time job for someone else, they'd look at our resume and they'd be like, so you were quote unquote self-employed for 10 years. I know what that means. Do they do the jerk off motion?
Unemployed.
Yeah. And you're like, no. I have all these clients who can give you reviews and stuff. Like, sure. What they're looking for is like, are you going to obediently come here at the same time every day?
Right. You've got a freedom streak. You've already disengaged from the corporate daddy. Who's to say you won't do it again?
Yeah, the state of employment is so precarious that even getting experience can be like, well, that's the wrong kind of experience. So no thanks. Next.
You aren't good enough for a company to give you fucking benefits and to call you an actual employee. Then why should you be good enough here? This is just a self-fulfilling fucking prophecy. Just a big old cycle. How can we ever get back into the system if you won't let us back in?
Fat people. I want more fat people in movies and TV.
Do you think they want you talking about them all the time, though?
Well,
maybe
someone has to do it. Look, this is great. Representation matters, but also it's great filmmaking. What would Jurassic Park be without Wayne Knight? I will tell you.
Okay.
You and I just watched Ridley Scott's The Martian, and we both said everybody's in this movie. This movie is a movie full of scientists working on computers. Everyone's fucking gorgeous. And Mackenzie Davis and Donald Glover and Chiwetel Ejiofor. And what they'll do is like, yeah, I'm like a supermodel, but I'm kind of clumsy and awkward socially.
Yeah.
But again, such energy and weirdness you get from character actors who look weird, who sound weird, who have different body types like Wayne Knight in Jurassic Park. We just have to bring it back. I appreciate the show for having different kinds of body types and people who look weird. Representation
absolutely matters. And I love that this show goes beyond the typical reason that you have a fat person is to point it out. Hopefully we've evolved past that, and lots of shows are doing it this way, but I want to point out that not once in the first season does it come up at all. In fact, the people who work at Lumen should have really no understanding of what's the body type. I mean, they might be attracted to one person or another, but how would they know what the standard is? For all they knew, outside, most people look like Dylan. And they've got no frame of reference.
Yes. And most people in America do look like Dylan. Most Americans are fat. I'm fat. But again, beyond the idea that like, hey, it's representation and we want it to reflect reality, it's also just good. It's nice to be able to track people, have contrast on screen, have different kinds of people on screen.
My poor love with face blindness. He doesn't have body blindness.
Again, Wayne Knight in Jurassic Park. If that was made today, well, it was made today. And they had Jake Johnson and Lauren Lapkus, who again are beautiful, but they're like, I'm a nerd. I love Jurassic Park so much. Yeah, but you're Jake Johnson. Anyway.
Your last name means dick.
So Devin invites Mark to the Sad Diner to eat Sad Diner food so she can grill him some more.
She's not grilling him. That is not how the relationship is. They are used to having a good relationship. I mean, Mark is her reprieve from the ridiculousness that is Rick, and who she takes him very well. I mean, they don't seem like a perfect match, her and her husband, but she takes it in good humor, and but she seeks like normalcy from her brother because they are very similarly temperamented. So for them to be on opposite sides of something, it feels uncomfortable and hurtful, and maybe they were overtired and it was just such a weird night, and so they weren't seeing eye to eye, or maybe being around Rick and made it harder to talk about. Milchick being there was weird too. So I can just read through Devin's decision here to ask her brother to come to a diner is just like, hopefully he's changed his mind a little, because like I can't stop thinking about the fact that Gemma might be alive. I hope he's a little bit more open to it today. But she's disappointed to learn that her idea is that she could petition with an attorney to use the overtime procedure at their discretion to talk to the NE, a petition to talk to the NE,
right?
To understand what he meant by that, and he just shuts it down. Audi Mark is just like, I'm quitting. But did you already tell them you're quitting? And I understand he's pissed. It's more pissed than I expected him to be, but like, think of what she's really asking of him.
So, but like what's literally happening, I don't recall how much information we've gotten about his wife's death, but he says, I identified the body. And then he says like, well, I'd love to see what happens if Rickon burned up.
Yeah.
So is the idea that she burned and that maybe there was a question of whether or not, because like that would be a very simple thing going on.
Yeah.
Is Devin's like, it's always lingered in my, like, there's, what if there's a tiniest % chance that that wasn't her who you identified?
Yeah.
And she's like, it would be great if we could get just a half step more confirmation, because then it wouldn't haunt us anymore. And he says us,
right. And that was a clumsy way to say it. She's just trying to speak for both of them and hoping that he feels that way too. She doesn't actually mean the us of like we both went through this death the same way.
Lacey speaking as a I feel like you've had versions of this conversation, not about death, but I think that
I always say us. Yeah, constantly. And I'm just trying to get buy-in or like, and I do it with every single client. This is ours. And we did this last year. And then like, I never go, what this law firm did and talking to them, I always go, you know what we should do? And it's like, I work for 20 law firms in one day and I'm talking to all of them like I work there. And I just feel that way. I feel like we're all together in this and I am trying to make decisions and get buy-in for us.
You're like a Nora. You're paid to be someone's girlfriend for the duration of the film.
And I'm a good lay.
What she says is, you're not the only one her death affected. And he gets really mad. And
I get it. But he also is blowing up the conversation because he also just doesn't want to deal with like, maybe she's got a fucking point here.
Yes, but it's just that comment, like, hey, listen, all of us were affected by the death of your wife.
Right.
Like,
but
all right.
Us digging into this and then me going to live in my sad house by myself, which by the way, I no longer even have a neighbor anymore. And if I did get one, I'd be really fucking suspicious of that person. I am more alone now than I've ever been, but you'd like me to see if my wife is still alive. What would that even mean?
But it just reminds me of the woman who gets pregnant and the husband of the wife is like, well, the pregnancy affects me too. I have to hear about it.
Right.
And like
You're being
smell
a
it
real
and
bitch.
stuff. Yeah.
Smell it.
Yes, I
Did
smell
my
that
pregnancy
baby.
smell? Okay.
He can smell a baby when it's in utero.
The baby, fine. I just don't want to think you're smelling other things on a woman.
I'm joking.
But thinking through this, and maybe I should wait till we get to this scene, but it is interesting that it's Miss Selvig who's always been interested in, is Mark seeing his dead wife places? Like that's what she thinks to ask the sister. Is like, I hear it's kind of common to think you see them somewhere. Does Mark ever say that? So like she is involved. I think that maybe Miss Selvig is who killed Jim or who got in the wreck or was put in charge of getting rid of her or covering it up, because it's him being in front of her car and her kind of revving the engine, him kind of being in danger of getting hit by a car that makes him go, wait, do you know something about Gemma? And like she's so like kind of put off kilter by that she actually kind of admits to it with her facial expression, because she's behind the wheel and like really could have accidentally just hit him. And I think she's off just enough to give it away, and then pissed. She's so mad.
Oh yeah.
So she's mad, and that makes me think that's because it wasn't her fault, but she was put in a bad position, which is also why I think her words are so fucking loaded when she's talking to people in charge, because I think she must have already given greatly to Keir, and we just don't know what it is yet.
Mark storms off out of the diner. Then we pan over and see that Mr. Drummond, the big Icelandic gentleman, is sitting there snooping. And we see on his hand the tattoo that says the word frolic.
And where else did we see the word frolic, boys
on a
and
poster.
Girls? A frolicaholic.
Oh my God, what does it mean?
In the break room. I don't care.
And what does it have to do with the numbers?
Probably nothing. I'll bet it's just like, let's put little fucking jokes in here that have to do with things that we know about and they won't. Like, I'm sure Mary is also somebody that fucking works on the board.
Well, Mary, you're a board member. Another example of spying. We check in on Irv, who goes to a payphone in the middle of the night, or, at night, and he calls Bert again, gets a voicemail, and then leaves a voicemail. And I only saw this on the captions. I couldn't actually hear it, but he says, hey, I received your innie's message. Yes. And then we pan over. He's being followed, and we see who's in the car following him. It's
I don't think he's
Christopher Walken.
Right, but no, Christopher Walken's not following him. He's Oh,
We
I
don't
didn't
know
take
what
it. We
means
don't
yet.
know. Okay. I took it as this is a man that showed up in my fucking house. What the hell?
Yeah, it could be. It's ambiguous.
Oh, man. I didn't think of him as a spy. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, so yeah, John Turturro says, I want you to know my innie got the message. What message? Well, we go over to Mark's apartment, and again, I want to praise this show for having interiors that are dark, but can adequately light them so that we can see what a novel idea of investing in lighting, something movies have been about since the 1890s.
All right.
And a doorbell rings.
Okay.
Fucking someone's Mr. Milchick, you're always fucking showing up. Okay. And he's got
He said
a
he'd
pineapple.
circle back. This man meant it.
He has an apology pineapple. We're very sorry.
And a pineapple. Yeah.
So he comes in and he's like, listen, I know you're still thinking about whether you want to come back. I have 3 things for you to ponder. And first of all, how would you feel about a 20% raise? Second of all, how would you feel about a full investigation of your innie's claims and regular wellness screenings from independent boards? He's like, that's going to happen? Oh, yes. It's the first step of many. And I just want to note, there's like a giant industry of law firms, of quote, independent, unquote, law firms who, when a company has a scandal, the company's like, we're hiring a totally independent outside law firm to do a total evaluation. The law firm comes in, they take a year, they write a 90-page report that the company approves of. And what it will do is, in espionage language, it's a limited hangout. We'll admit to some stuff. We'll admit to some stuff that looks bad for us, but that we're okay with you knowing. So there's going to be independent evaluations, and this probably isn't true, but even if it were true, it wouldn't mean anything. And then the third thing is, it concerns your late wife, Gemma. In your intake interview, you cited her death as a primary motivator for severing. You said that since she died, every day feels like a year, that you were choking on her ghost. Well, here's the thing, Mark. The Mark that I know at Lumen, he's happy. He cares for people, and he's funny. He knows nothing of the pain I see in you right now. He's found love. The solace you have given him down there will make its way to you. It just takes time. I hope you'll give us that time, Mr. Scout.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So manipulative. So, like, let me re-traumatize you.
But it worked.
Works. Now we get like a little montage of everything that's been going, the real parts, the real timeline of what we see in the first.
Yeah, because Mark goes back to work. It's a new work morning. As he's going in, we cut over to Helly, and she's talking with Milchick and the big guy, and the big guy's like, well, the sister seems more uppity than him. We're realizing this is all about Mark. This is all about Mark for reasons we don't understand yet. So Mark, we're sending him back into work, and we've brought in some new people. We got Alia Shawkat and Bob Balaban. They were just laid off from 5X. 5X? Yeah, 5X.
And then someone overseas, really scraping the bottom of the barrel. I had 2 days.
Yeah.
2 days? Not 5 months?
The center, I'm hoping some chemistry can happen. We don't need chemistry. We just need Mark S. to go back to work long enough to complete Cold Harbor. Wait a minute. This is not 5 months. This is actually 2 days. What the fuck? Mark is being totally lied to down there. So we see some, a couple of work days happen in montage, and we get the footage of Helly and Milchick and Mr. Drummond listening to the recording of Mark talking into the box, screaming at the board. You got to help I need my friends back. They're my friends. You can't just make them disappear. And so they tell Milchick, like, well, the board's going to give him what he wants, including Helly R. He won't finish without them. So the team reassembles. Milchick goes over to Irv's house and Dylan's house with pineapples. Hey, I'm very sorry. Please come back. It's a new morning at Lumen. We see poor Bob Balaban being escorted out of the building. And he's like,
canceled a lease in Grand Rapids. Don't touch me. You 3 days of employment. Give me another reason to sue you. Something like that.
Yeah, we are all at the mercy of our jobs. One by one, we see Dylan and Irv and Helly go down to the severed floor. But again, we don't go down to the severed floor ourselves. This is all in the outside world. Everything that we saw in the first episode happened over the course of 3 or 4 days, which begs the question.
How did they get Keanu?
How did they make that stop motion video in 3 days?
There's a hole. There's a hole here. There's such great attention to detail. This seems like a... Stop motion takes time, man. You could have picked a different kind of fucking medium.
I don't actually care. It's just, it's like, those things take like a year at least.
Like Wallace and Gromit, or like, Box Trolls took 6 years.
Yeah, no, Wallace and Gromit movies take like 10 years.
Like they're done. They're done and made for no profit. They are literally funded by people who just love the art of it.
Yeah,
they literally make no money. It's
the same handful of people have been doing it since the 80s, and there's a new Wallace and Gromit movie, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. It's on Netflix. It is incredible. I've not heard anybody talking about it, but it
lots of people in Film Talk have been.
Oh, okay. Because I watched it last night to prepare for the Oscars, and I was like,
it's incredible in the way it looks or the story.
Everything. It's a great movie, and I was thinking like I'm going to be embarrassed to say this is my favorite movie of the year, but I guess I shouldn't be.
No, it's a true art, and Zedzilla of Zedzilla would be very fucking pumped to hear you say that. Stop motion is a personal passion of his.
No, stop motion, it's the greatest. It's knowing that everything you're seeing on screen that exists somewhere.
Yeah.
These are all
puppets.
Physical props and puppets
and
yes.
real sets
and settings. Yeah.
Yes, and the different mechanisms to make them move and what they can do.
And shout out again to the Dan Harmon's company that made the stop motion last week. Starburns, I think Starburns is the company. Starburns, the character from Community, the guy who plays that on. Anyway.
Oh.
He's Dan Harmon's like writing partner or something in some capacity. Anyway, Mark goes home after work and sees Patricia Arquette coming out of her house. Finally, I can confront her. He's like, "Hey, what the hell, man?"
No, he's more strong than that. He's pretty pissed, but she's so fucking cold. And clearly she seems aggravated that he didn't quit his job. She does not seem to be going back to them. We don't actually know what she's up to, but she is clearly disappointed and thinks less of him.
It's so interesting the way that she's playing it, and the way that this is written and directed, the way she's reacting to this situation. So like she is not going back to Lumen, presumably.
Right.
She's got luggage. She's moving out of this house.
And she's disappointed in him, but not any kind of there's no care in her at all. She just thinks less of him, or just you fucking guy.
Because
You're
she
just
says,
so easy to fuck over, aren't you? You let me fuck you over, and now you let them fuck you over more, you fucking piece of shit.
She says, yeah, they convinced you to stay. Was a pineapple involved? You're so easy to sway. Because we saw in her house last season that she has like a temple to Kier. So she's a true believer, but you can read this as her like exiting a cult.
Maybe. Yeah.
She's experienced some personal betrayals, and now it's made her question everything.
Yeah, it could be projection, right?
But unlike people who leave cults, she's not like then having empathy for the other people who are impacted and like, I need to help you. She's like, you fucking rube.
There's something about the disgust that I'm not completely understanding yet.
Yeah. And he's just like, what the fuck is this all about? She just gets into her car and starts to drive away. And he's like,
no,
he's nothing to her. She's not even going to fucking acknowledge. So he jumps in front of her car and he says, do you know something about Gemma? And this makes her sigh, look down, then look up. And suddenly, like, you can see in his face, okay, fuck, this is about my wife, isn't it?
Right.
Before any more dialogue can be exchanged, she just screams.
In her perfect fucking Arquette way, because it just immediately remind me of True Romance. Her scream is curdling.
Yeah. She's also, I don't remember True Romance, but Lost Highway. She's in Lost Highway. She's so good in Lost Highway.
She's got a great scream, but it's
and then she just
peels
forward and jumps
and
out.
I just learned about black ice, so I don't buy it one bit.
Black ice.
She'd be slipping all over the place the way she peeled out in that fucking on that road after snow had melted.
And that's the end of the episode, folks. Lacey, now's the period in our episode where we give our final thoughts and letter grade for the episode.
I can't wait. I just can't wait for the next one. And I hate that they're only like 45 to an hour long. I don't even know how long. There's just not going to be enough. I just have this like insatiable need for this story and these people. So I give it an A. I'm still going to reserve my A+. I'm
going to give it a B+. I mean, the first episode had the stop motion, so. I'm going to give it an A-. I love the performances in this episode. I think Britt Lower, I love her performance as evil outie. Helly, I love Patricia Arquette. No, very little John Turturro. That sucks. Again, we haven't praised Tramell Tillman enough, but he's great. I think Sam Donovan does a really good job directing this episode. The music is great. It looks good. Good show, fun show. I'm looking forward. I hope that next week we resume the.
I need to go back in, man.
I want to go have both worlds.
I do too.
Yeah.
I miss the in and out. Yeah. Now being on, and I knew that's what was going to happen, but I crave the severance, man.
Yeah, because I love this outside world. I love the sister and the brother-in-law, but I love seeing our guys together.
I know.
Whispering secrets to each other.
But isn't that something though? This show has made us love Severance.
I just want to be severed. Yes,
I just want to be part of your world. I just want to watch you, my little Trumans. I want to see what develops amongst you simple beings.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. All right. What do we have coming up on Load Bearing Beams? This week we're doing an episode on the Diane Keaton 80s baby movie, Baby Baby. It's kind of similar to Severance. And we'll be doing The Legend of Billie Jean, another 80s movie, the week after that.
Which is a listener's choice.
Where, listen to our podcast wherever you get your podcast, or you can watch us on YouTube. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/loadbearingbeams. A billion other things on YouTube.
At least a billion.
At least a billion.
Mm-hmm. And they're all good. We are very smart and funny. And thank you for listening all the way through and giving us a chance. And if you like some of this, you're going to like a lot of that.
That's true.
Probably.
She's right.
Yeah. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.